Hi, welcome to the session. Today we're going to be looking at 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars and how to use standard instruments to create that in Logic Pro X. 24 Karat Magic is a throwback to the 80s synths and drum sounds that a lot of us love, and it's fun to do that in Logic Pro X because we can explore the different synths and the different retro drum sounds that we have. So let's have a look. So this is the project for 24 Karat Magic, and I've got the vocal track up here. It's only the vocals and the intro, which I didn't do. This one is from the song itself, and the rest, once the Bruno Mars comes in, is actually my arrangement of the instruments. Now, this song is at 107 BPM, so let's play it and have a listen. Tonight. Alright, so we did it up to the first chorus. So let's go through the arrangement. You can see that there are not many tracks here. So let's go through the keyboards first, which I think are one of the main things happening here. So it's just this sound going here. The chords like that. You can see it in the MIDI. Very simple. And let's have a look at what instrument it is. So I opened up Alchemy for this, and I went into the analog synth electro category, and I found an old school keyboard. And from that old school keyboard, I moved the perform to open, mucked around a little bit, and you get this kind of sound. Pretty old school, but I wanted it to sort of like be a little bit wider. So you can see that this one's panned to the right a little bit, and I paired it with an analog SAW 3 oscillator, and that's not an Alchemy patch. This one is from ES2, and you can see under the tutorial settings I just had an analog SAW 3 oscillator, mucked around a little bit, but essentially the sound is there, and it's the same thing. I just copied the MIDI over, and let's just play it. So it's got a different sound but sort of the same vibe, and it's panned to the left. So this one's panned to the right, the other one's panned to the left, and when you put them together you hear this. It's this nice wide retro kind of synth sound that you can't get with just one single synth. So sometimes you have to stack your synths up and pan them a little bit, play around with the pans and see what you can get. So you got your various bits here, and you got this section which goes, yeah, just the little variants. And if you notice in the verse, it's playing what the chorus plays, but it's one octave lower. So essentially the same thing. So the octave higher sort of brings out the rhythm a little bit, octave lower sort of makes it go down a little bit. Okay, next. Now it's that little plicky plonky thing that fills the gaps in between the two chords. So it's like this. And stops. Goes again. So it alternates, right? So what I used was a retro synth. And I picked a sequence element, Digiwave sequence. And I just changed the amp environment a little bit, pulled it back a little bit because I wanted it to be a little bit more plinky, not so much sustained. And this is what I got. And you notice I have a little bit of left-right panning going on, which is what the single has as well. And let me open up the automation. And you can see that it's panning left to right to left. So simple panning automation, goes to the center and then it starts all over again. Now onto the bass. The bass is actually a two-parter. And what I have is a little bass that goes on here, which is from Analog Dark Bass under Alchemy, right? So if you browse it, it's under Bass Classic. I use a lot of classic sounds and that's where you get all that analog stuff here. And I moved it to crunch. And I mucked around with it a little bit in terms of the legato. Yeah, the slide, I changed it a little bit, because I wanted it to sort of slide when I wanted it to. So here's a look at it. I didn't use any pitch bends or anything. I just put a really low octave here so that it slides down. So you can see these two notes, when they overlap, you get a little bend, which is a nice vibe. So the expression that you get from all these synths is from the note lengths themselves. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they have bends, sometimes they're really, really short like this and give a bit of sense of rhythm. So you need to play around with that to get that kind of rhythm that you desire. Now this isn't the only bass, because this one's sort of like a fat, a lot of high, mid and sort of low mid kind of bass. A bit fuzzy, you know. So there's a bit of high end in this bass. And I wanted a deep bass, so I opened up another Alchemy patch that you can find, which is a deep sub bass. And you can see it's just set to sine here. And it's obviously going to be really deep. So let's have a listen to this. I took out all the other bendy notes that are part of it. I just copied it over and then I took out all the bend notes. So I just wanted the main notes to be there. And yeah, this one should be taken out. And yeah, if you pair them together, you'll hear the high and the low ends. So the top end sort of gives it that character and all the little details, and the low end just gives it that body. So it's also possible to stack bass synths to give it that, you know, that fatness about it. So remember, for top synths you can stack them as well, and for bass synths you can stack them as well. And this one is just exactly the same synth, but I wanted a different level for this, so I just copied it over with this and I changed the level a bit, and then it just plays the little accent here. And that's it. Yeah. Okay, so for drums, I made it really, really simple, and I use a drum machine, which is basically under Electronic Drum Kits, Drum Machine Designer, and Analog Circuits. I took out all the plugins in the Analog Circuit section because I didn't want it messing around, and then I added the compressor again later. But let's see what drums we have. So I mucked around and picked, the only things that I use are the kicks and snares and claps, and I think the second snare. So second snare is also here. Yep, and then snare 1. So let's have a listen to what we have for the drums. And this is what we have. So the analog circuit snare is pretty nice and fat. It's got a really retro thing. It doesn't sound exactly like the original 24K Magic one, but it's close enough. It's got a retro vibe. And then there's a clap. So when you pair that together, it's got this nice retro vibe about it. I really, really like it. But the hats didn't come from analog circuits because I find it didn't work. It sounded more like live drums. So what I did was that I used a drum kit designer right here, and I used the Brooklyn kit. So the Brooklyn kit is this kit over here. Let's turn this off, right? And I just used it for the hats. So these are the hats. You can see the MIDI right here. Doesn't sound super realistic, but at least the sounds are a bit more organic. And I compressed it. I compressed the hats because I really wanted to bring it up. I usually use basic sort of Fat Life drums, and then I adjust the ratio a little bit, the makeup a little bit, threshold a little bit. And yeah, so when you pair it together with the drums, they kind of go pretty okay together. So it kind of works out. Now, that is the opening sections and the verse sections. And then you have this, this sort of bridge section before the chorus, right? Like a pre-chorus. And your deep sub still plays. It's just these 2 notes just to support it. But I'm not using the analog dark bass anymore. It's too fat. What I'm using is this Alchemy bass, which is a 70s synth intro, and I push it to deep and wide. So here's how it sounds by itself. It's deep and wide. Pretty straightforward. So paired with a deep sub, it sounds even deeper. Yeah, it's just playing these 2 notes, and the drums are just going on. Now the thing that gives it character here is this synth buildup. And first thing you need to note is that there is an automation going on, volume automation, pretty straightforward from a low to high, and then just fully cuts off for the bar before the chorus, just to give it that drop. So what's going on here? Let's have a listen. And then it totally cuts off, right? Because of the volume automation. Now there's another automation here, but before we go to that, I'll just show you what I picked. I picked under Electronica Bright 70 synth strings, and I put the perform between string pad and buzzing pad. Sometimes I muck around with delays and reverbs a little bit. So you gotta check it out and just like sort of muck around to taste. So, okay, what do we automate here? Let's have a look. We have a volume automation, volume automation here, but we have more than that. We've got Alchemy LP cutoff, low pass cutoff. And essentially, it's in the perform section, LP cutoff here, right? You can see it turning over the course of the entire thing. See LP cutoff turning, right? So how do you get to LP cutoff? You go to Alchemy, under perform, you see LP cutoff, and that's the one you select, and then you just tweak it to taste. And for me, this is the part that is the that gives it the vibe here. So you can see the LP turning. It's just a loop. and then it cuts off. So that's what you got. So, and then it drops off, and you can see those transition points. We've got these scratches here. So let's play them. Pretty straightforward classic scratches. You can find them in the Loops browser. Remix Crazy. It's this one. And no, sorry, it's the second one. And then I just basically dragged it in. And that's how it goes. So that is really, really straightforward. No extra effects on that. And it just fits to your BPM. I did cut off at the last bar though, so it's just 3 bars, and then the 4th bar is gone. So, and then there is a siren. Now I searched for siren, and I did find a siren, I think. Yeah, there we go, siren 1. It's a pretty good siren, not long enough. The song Siren is actually longer, but it kind of fits the same time I put this scratch in. So I think it kind of worked like that. Let's have a listen again. Players only. Come on, put your pinky rings up to the moon. Yeah, so it's got that vibe, and I think it kind of works out pretty nicely. The rest is pretty much copying stuff over. And maybe adding a little bit of live guitar underneath. I try to keep this completely within Logic Instruments, so I couldn't find a sort of like a funk guitar that would sit underneath the chorus section here that would suit it, and I left it out, and it still sounds pretty good, so I have to listen again. Girls, what y'all trying to do? And you have to remember that for vocals productions, let's just listen to this. This is not a perfect -1. This is something I got off the internet. I'll credit it in the description below. Moon! Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. So the harmonies and the little vocals that pop in and out are really important in creating the feel of the song as well. So if you just take it out, it's gonna feel like a little, significantly more plain. So you do get a lot of a lot more power and energy and everything with good vocal production. Just something to make note of. I hope you learned something useful today. Logic has a wide array of synth sounds and drum sounds that you can play around to get really modern stuff to really retro stuff like what we did today. So keep on exploring, keep on learning, and I'll see you next time.